Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today I've got another episode of School of Hard Knocks, and for those of you that are not familiar with my channel, this is when I go over something that's happened in my past that I've learned from, where I try to teach you guys from my mistakes. And the first one that I did on jerkbaits went over really well. I think people were happy with the information that I provided, and I hope that that's information that people will learn from and catch more fish because of. So today we've got another episode of School of Hard Knocks, and before I get into that, guys, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please subscribe, hit the like button, leave me a comment. If you disagree with what I'm saying right now, let me know. I'm interested in hearing all of your opinions as well. And just remember, this is all from my personal experience. And with respect to School of Hard Knocks, these are items that are like hard rules for me at this point. And today's episode of School of Hard Knocks has to do with topwaters. I love fishing topwaters. I think it is a great way to do extremely well in tournaments, and there are times when a topwater is better than anything else out there. And I can't answer specifically why there are days when a topwater is great, but there are days when you better be throwing a topwater, and if you are, you will experience some of the best fishing that you've ever had. The issue with this is frequently you can be practicing for a tournament and find that, hey, the topwater bite is awesome. I'm going all in on this topwater bite. And what happens a lot of times with a topwater is the bite that you were on during practice changes during the tournament. I think a topwater, more than any other bait out there, has more drastic changes in fish activity levels in terms of generating strikes, because they really are sensitive to everything that's going on. And what I mean by that, has to do with, there are times they bite it and times they don't. So the best times for a topwater, in my opinion, are days where you've got relatively low light periods. So it could be an overcast day. It could be partly cloudy. It could be one of those days where you have storms coming through, and then it might get sunny and then another storm. But you want to have more low light periods throughout the day. The reason that makes for good topwater fishing is because the fish, and I'm talking primarily largemouth in this case, the largemouth like to stay in shaded areas. They are not huge fans of the sun, so they like to position themselves in shade. If you have low light periods, those fish will disperse, and they won't necessarily sit under cover or in the shade, which makes them harder to access. They'll roam out from the cover. And when they roam out, a topwater bait is a great bait for covering, in between specific targets. The other main key to a good topwater day is you want to have a low pressure day. In low pressure, a lot of times what happens is the fish will gravitate to the upper part of the water column. Now, I mean, you could be in 20 feet and they'll be more in that upper 10 feet, or you could be in 4 feet and they'll be 2 feet off the bottom. It's all relative. But when you're topwater fishing, the higher that the fish are in the water column, the more likely they are to go to the surface to hit your bait. So if you're fishing in 10 feet of water and the fish are on the bottom, the likelihood that the fish are going to come up to eat your bait 10 feet above them is less than if that fish is 5 feet above, or 5 feet above the bottom. So only 5 feet to your bait. Generally, that's a low pressure day or a stable time period. And if that, so what you're looking for are times when the fish are not necessarily buried in the cover and they're higher in the water column. That's what makes for an absolutely phenomenal topwater day. You know, you can throw in other things too. If you've got some bait fish around and stuff like that, where the fish are keying in on top, on shad that are high up, that's great too. But the two big things for me are low pressure and low light periods. So if you've got a day where you're practicing for a tournament and those are your conditions, you could have a phenomenal day of topwater fishing and go into the tournament saying, hey, I'm going to do great. The problem is a lot of times, you know, a day or two later, the conditions are different. You know, maybe you don't have the overcast conditions that you had. You've got straight sunny days. And when that happens, like I said before, those fish are going to go hide and bury into cover where you can't necessarily get your topwater bait to them. And even if you can, they're less likely to come out and hit that bait if they're buried deeper in cover. They really want something to come directly to them. And a different presentation is going to be a better way to be successful in that tournament. So, you know, the other issue is if you do have the sun out, a lot of times what that's going to do is push the fish more towards the bottom, which again goes back with what I was just saying before, where those fish are going to be less likely to come to the surface. So, you know, the biggest takeaway here is I don't want you to die with the topwater. Because you had a great practice with a topwater doesn't mean that you should try to force it in the tournament. And I think more times than not, people are always trying to force what they did in practice. And if there's one bait that I want to try to move away from quickly, it's a topwater. You usually can determine whether or not the topwater bite is on faster than you can some other baits. So do not die with the topwater. If your conditions change from practice into the tournament, put it down quick. Don't live and die by it. Don't try to force a topwater bite because it's not going to happen. You'll know quickly if it's on. The one thing I'm going to say that counters this is if you're smallmouth fishing, you can throw a lot of this out the window. You know, like I said before, this has to do really more so with largemouth who like to get into the shade. Northern smallmouth specifically love to get out on flats when it's sunny out. They're big time sight feeders, so they like the sun. And there are lots of times where you can have really good topwater days for smallmouth when that same day, that same condition would not be a great largemouth day. So, you know, you want to also keep in mind what species of bass that you're fishing for. But this is just, again, something that I've learned through the hard way, guys. I have tried to force a topwater bite that I had in practice in the tournament, and I was too hard-headed to put it down. You know, I ended up not having great tournaments because I tried to force a bite that, you know, really, when topwater's on, it can generate some really big bites, and you can catch some of the biggest fish in the lake. So you get this hard-headedness where you want to force that because you saw such a good caliber fish in practice. But guys, it's the first bait you should put down. If it's not working, put it down and go to something else. That's my information for you. School of Hard Knocks, guys. I've learned the hard way. Try to learn from my errors, and I'm trying to help you become a better fisherman. So let me know, guys, if you think I'm crazy. Leave a comment and tell me I'm nuts. If you liked the video, hit that like button, share it on your social media outlets, and stay tuned. We got videos coming out every day. Thanks for watching, guys.